Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our panelists. President, Ford Foundation, Darren Walker. Chief Executive Officer, General Motors Company, Mary Barra. Minister of Finance, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Executive Chairman, Alibaba Group, Jack Ma. And welcome back as our moderator, Chelsea Clinton.
Thank you. Well, as you could see from the video that launched our plenary session this morning, we are highly focused at CGI and the Clinton Foundation more broadly on understanding both what matters most for impact and then how best to assess and evaluate that going forward. We're so excited to have our particular panelists as part of this conversation because each in her or his own way has clearly demonstrated leadership in this area. And I hope that in many regards, this conversation will be a continuation of the one that my mother led yesterday with Gina Rometty and Jim Kim, how we focus on longer-term planning and impact metrics to complement often our short-term focus. I want to start with you, Ngozi, partly because we've had the privilege of being on a panel together before, and also because I know that there's something in particular that you want to talk about before we start the conversation. Ngozi asked if she could give all of us an update on the situation of the girls kidnapped by Boko Haram. So I want to give her an opportunity to do that, and then we'll launch into our conversation. Ngozi?
Thank you very much, Chelsea, and good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say a word about the Chibok girls who were kidnapped, because everywhere I go, there's tremendous interest, and I wanted to honor their presence and where they are by updating you. Just 1 minute. First, I want to thank everyone for the tremendous support they've shown and the empathy they've shown to the girls. I want you to know that they're in our thoughts every single day. About 5 weeks ago, we met the president of Nigeria, and I was in that meeting, met with the parents of all the girls, and 57 of them who had escaped, to map out a way to try to honor the girls whilst we're waiting for their release. And with Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister of the UK, I'm leading an initiative called Safe Schools, to try to make our schools safer so that when the girls come back, they will not come back to the same environment they're in. Their release is obviously a tremendous dilemma. We've had the help of the US, the UK, France, and a few other countries. But a group of them have been seen in a camp, but obviously trying to get them out is a very delicate matter because you want to get them out alive. So the security forces are looking at what is the best means to do this without harming them. But I just wanted to share they are not forgotten. They're with us every day. As a mother of a daughter, I feel every day I wake up, it's the same question that I ask. How soon will we get the girls out? But keep on supporting us. We don't want you or us or anyone to forget these girls till we get them back. Thank you.
Ngozi, this year marked the first time when Nigeria became the largest economy on the continent of Africa. And under your stewardship, Nigeria's economy has grown at least 6% per annum. And yet Nigeria has continued to focus on significant environmental and social prerogatives as well. And too often, sort of economic growth or sustainability are set up as a dichotomy. And that hasn't been true under your leadership in Nigeria. How have you thought about what too often are seen as opposites as being complementary, and of continuing to focus on Nigeria's Millennium Development Goals while also growing your economy?
Well, thank you very much, Chelsea. I think in the past we used to think of economic growth and environmental sustainability as two different things that had trade-offs. But I think the more recent work that has just been released by, the recent one by the Commission on Climate Change, other work that is being done shows that you can grow in a sustainable and responsible manner that takes account of the environment. Of course, the present measure of GDP growth, where we've done well, we've been growing actually at an average of 7% a year for the past decade, does not capture some of the challenges we have. The environmental issues, the fact that we have rising inequality in the country, a lack of inclusion of those at the bottom end of the ladder. So what are we planning to do this? As you said, we've been thinking carefully about this. One, on the front of sustainability, we've decided that we can do much better on the energy front by doing one or two quick things. One is admitting that the government has not been good at delivering services on the energy front, power. Only 42% of the population have access to electricity. So we've privatized our entire power sector, except for transmission. It's a pretty bold move. Was done in a transparent manner, and we're hoping the private sector can step in and help us deliver services. We've complemented that with trying to explore to move to gas. As you know, because we're using so many generators with diesel, we are contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. By privatizing, by moving to gas, we are trying to reduce our food imprint on that score. Secondly, we're the 9th largest country in terms of gas reserves, and so that will help. But we're flaring quite a bit of the gas now, and we're losing $2.5 billion each year due to that. So penalties on gas flaring, pricing gas properly, all that will help us. The other plank is phasing out of energy subsidies. We did it, I think we were before the world at the beginning of 2012, where there were demonstrations. It was a huge challenge. The president was brave to continue. We phased out half of our energy subsidies, about $7 billion. We have another half to go. And as we move forward, moving on that front is also a contribution to sustainable development. So we are planning our growth with all these reforms embedded. And then we want to complement it at the bottom, recognizing that GDP doesn't catch everything, with building a social safety net, social protection. I'm in the midst of doing that now with the help of the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and all the donors, the British DFID, to try and craft a platform. And I'm very excited. I wanted to show you the last point I want to make, why it would be good to do this. We've just launched a national identity card system in partnership with MasterCard, and it has a chip at the back. With this, we'll be able to identify almost all our citizens. We've only done 3,000, and one of the first. With that identification, it means we can target properly and correct for all the people who we are not able to reach. And at the same time, be able to transfer resources, conditional cash transfers using this technology. And that brings me to say that technology, looking at Jack Ma on my right, is the key to the future. It will enable us to leapfrog so many things. And if we build it and embed it in our growth process, I think we can do better in growing sustainably.
You know, Mary, at GM, you've talked about how your financial and environmental sustainability goals are interconnected. And you have said that, as one of the largest car manufacturers in the world, you sell more than 9 million cars a year. It is in your business interests to cut your greenhouse gas emissions by 20% by 2020, and to continue to invest in renewable energy as an alternative. Why do you see that as a fundamental business goal? Why do you see kind of environmental sustainability as having such important value to GM's economic future?
Well, as I said, and there's really two fundamental points. First, it's what customers want. And if we, at GM, we're really focused on putting the customer at the center of what we do. The customer has that expectation. It's not an or, it's an and. They're expecting, to have winning vehicles, but also to have the fuel efficiency. And so when we look at it, it then becomes a business priority. And there's so much we can do across with technologies as we look at, where it's going, whether it's electrification electrification, whether it's more fuel efficient, internal combustion engines, whether it's the connectivity that will actually change the way that we can attack safety, congestion, and fuel economy, it all comes together. So it starts with a customer expectation, but it's a fundamental part of business. So it's not something where you do this and then you get to it. You have to do it together if you're going to be successful.
Jack, you started Alibaba in your living room, which clearly was a tremendous leap of faith into the future in many ways. I mean, kind of inevitably, there was long-term thinking engaged in kind of the initial idea and then evolution of Alibaba. Talk about value. You've just been given a tremendous value by the market with your recent IPO. How do you now think about value going forward as a public company? How do you continue to make the long-term investments that have clearly been crucial to Alibaba's current position while kind of existing within public market scrutiny, which so often is short-term focused?
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Well, last week was very exciting. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank America for the trust and help us raise a little money so we can do more things.
Only a little, Jack, only a little.
Well, people keep on asking me, how are you going to spend the money? That lot of money, we're going to spend it. But first, I've been thinking about who helped us here, who brought us here, who helped us come to New York Stock Exchange, raise money. It's the millions and millions of small, medium-sized companies that they helped us. Without them, this thing could never happen. And I remember that in my apartment, and I asked myself, I think, who are the people I should work with? Because SOE, the state-owned business, the government take care of them. Multinational companies, they've got a capital market, and they got all the people supporting them. Only small guys, there's no way, nobody helped them. So the only thing we can help is the internet. So keep on fighting for 15 years that we come out today. So if we want to last long, if we want to keep on have a good luck like today, we still have to keep on focusing these small, medium-sized companies. This is what we believe. And the second is how we're going to spend the money. I think, we are all normal people. The best day I have was when I graduated, I got $20 a month. That's my pay. That was fantastic days I have. The more money you have, and when I believe when you have $1 million, you're a lucky person. When you have $10 million, you got trouble because the inflation, where to invest the money, you got a lot of headaches. But when you have more than $1 billion, $100 million, that's the responsibility that you have. It's the trust of people on you because people believe you can spend money better than the others. This is what I believe. How much money? We only eat 3 meals a day, and we only sleep on one bed. How can you spend money? So I think the world, everybody complain. Where the complaint is, where is the opportunity? And I always believe today we have to think about what we should do in 10 years. We got successful today, not because we did a great job today. We had a dream 15 years ago. 15 years ago, we believed the internet can help small business. Then we come here. So today, people say, well, Jack, you have in China, if you're successful, you must have a strong secret government support and this and that. No. I want to prove one thing. In my apartment, I told my team, if we can be successful, 80% of the young people in China can be successful. We don't have a rich father. We don't have a powerful uncle. We only have the customers who support us. So these are the things we want to prove to the world, that if you believe that you have the dream, believe you create a value, these things can be happen. So when I heard Minister talking about the small business, the whole world, there are more than 7 billion people. Only 500 million people are online shopping. That's 6.5 billion people still they live in the rural area. That's the opportunities we could have. So we will keep on doing that, trying to help Nigeria SME can sell to Philippines can sell to the Pakistan sell to Argentina. If we can make that thing happen, that's the money should be going into. And the second is that the things today, what's happening today, is going to cause the 10 years result. For today in China, what we want to do is the pollution, the environment. the polluted water, the airs, and the unsafe of the food will cause 10 years later, millions and millions of people in China will have a health problem. So we should invest money on that. And the second thing is that I don't want in 10 years later people have a deeper pocket but shallow mind. So we should invest in the cultural products. If we don't do these things right, 10 years later we'll be in trouble. I don't want. We make the money at the end. We all spend the money in the hospital, buying medicine. This is what we believe. And you have to plan for 10 years.
You know, Jack, a quick follow-up question. Oh, please.
Thank you.
I think that thinking and that concern about a particular conclusion is one that is equally valid in the United States as it is in China. One quick follow-up question. I know that you reserved $3 billion from the IPO to invest philanthropically. How do you think about your philanthropic investments as distinct from your business investments to help tackle some of the challenges you were just talking about?
Yeah, first, I strongly believe we should bury the social responsibility into a business model. I hate those guys selling drugs and make dirty and polluted products. Meanwhile, every year they donate some money. And I think the business you do, you have to put, the whole model is a social responsibility. Pink. The money I put, this is, the money I donate is not my money. It's the trust. It's the people giving me, say, Jack, you can do this thing more efficiently than government or than the others. So I would spend the money on the environment protection, not only in China, but also in Africa. I'm so proud to join the Nature Conservancy. I am the chairman of the China TNC. I'm also standing on the board. I learned so much from you guys, from the American, because the pollution today, a lot of people say, oh, forget about it. China is hopeless. You know, there's no chance we can make a clean air, clean water. I remember 15 years ago, people talked to me, say, forget about it, Jack. China, e-commerce, internet, and no chance. But we never give up. So if we don't give up in 15 years, China will have changed. We will have a blue air. We will have blue sky. We will have a clean water. These things. So the money, $3 billion, it means a lot to us. But the things that we want to do, that's only a beginning. And I think we'll put the money on the environment protection. We want to put the money on the young people's education. I want to share with you guys, the reason we win in e-commerce in China is because the infrastructure of commerce in China was too bad. And they give us the chance. Why e-commerce in the US is not that good? Because the infrastructure of commerce was so good. And e-commerce is a supplementary, which I say USA e-commerce is a dessert. In China, become a main course. So the secrecy is that invest on the money and helping those who want to be successful, help young people, help small guys, because small guys will be big. Young people, when they grow up, whatever the seeds you bury into their mind, when they grow up, they change the world. So don't try to, I never try to convince successful people, because successful people, they have millions of excuses to tell you, no, this is not good. So I think focusing on young people, focusing on small, and small is beautiful in this century.
Thank you. Darren, you have spent a lot of time thinking about the myriad of conversations that we've already had this morning. I mean, thinking about how to value what matters, thinking about how to better encourage businesses and development organizations to be focused more on the long term. And you've also been quite candid about how hard it is to value social impact and how hard it is to kind of value impact over the longer term. Can you talk a little bit about the social impact calculator that you're developing at the Ford Foundation and kind of what you want the business and philanthropic community to take out of this conversation today?
Thanks, Chelsea. So before talking about the calculator, let me just say that the question that animates this panel, valuing what matters, is not a new question. It's not a new issue. 5 decades ago, Robert Kennedy challenged America because he said that we had a very precise way of understanding our GDP. but that the inputs to that were things like cigarette advertising, the cost of napalm that we use in wars. And fast forward today, our GDP includes the machinery and riot gear that was used in Ferguson, Missouri, the burgeoning prison industrial complex that we have in this country. But I am radically optimistic because we today have tools and leadership. We can look at social progress, and there are tools being developed. Michael Porter at Harvard and the Matthew Bishop at The Economist and a team are working on something called the Social Progress Index, SPI. We need an SPI, and we need to understand its value in our society because we need to understand how we're doing in terms of health and education and the quality of our water and our public spaces. I'm also optimistic because we have a new generation of leaders like the people on this panel and like people like Indra Nooyi and Paul Pullman, who have fortunately put the nail in the coffin of the idea that the role of a corporation is only to maximize shareholder value. They understand that the role of the corporation is indeed to do that, but to also do good. But they need the tools to understand whether they are a more sustainable corporation. And that's why an initiative that we're excited about that Mike Bloomberg chairs called the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board has been created. And SASB's goal is to create a uniform understanding of environmental impact by corporations. And we want to use this the same way the SEC uses tools to measure other dimensions of output by a corporation. So I am really excited. I think that this combination of both tools and leadership positions us very well for the future.
Please, Mary.
Can I just add to that? I mean, I think also, and we were talking about this a little bit before, when you look at the world being more connected, the world has become a lot smaller. And, I think it also, though, has provided the transparency of information that everybody has higher expectations, as they should. And therefore, whether it's a small company or a large company, there is an obligation to, with the opportunity comes the responsibility to do it the right way, to not only, treat from an environmental perspective as you've created waste, but to have processes in place that you don't create it to begin with. And again, I think the power of it's shareholder value and improving the communities in which you live and work, and we should have a way to measure that to know we're working on the most impactful things. But I think it comes together quite, again, my expectation is that our shareholders understand that it's an additive and it's going to make the company more valuable in the longer term, which I think starts your question. So again, I think when you couple that learning along with just information has become much more transparent and created higher expectations, it's a call for action.
Jack, do you feel that from an Alibaba perspective, that the transparency has created sort of different expectations for you now than if you had gone public a decade ago?
Yeah, of course. I think the transparency of the company is just like drinking clean water. If you do not drink clean water, you will get sick. If the company is mysterious and nobody knows, how can you lead the employees? How can you serve the customers? Well, when I come to the States, I'm raising my money on the roadshow. I openly tell my investors, our philosophy is always customer number one, employee number two, and shareholder number three. So those guys, if you don't believe that, don't invest in us. I mean, you have to be transparent telling them, because I believe it's the customer that gives us the money. If the young people who join the company, they create the value. If the customer happy, employee happy, shareholder will be happy. Shareholder, they invest in us, should be long-term because they promised. I remember a lot of say, well, we're a long investor, 10-year investor, 20 years, we will never give up your shareholders. But when anything comes, they leave. But my customers never leave. My employees never leave. But the other thing, I think, that because of information transfer, I have never got a one-day education in the United States of America. I taught myself English. I'm 100% made in China. And I don't see any difference that your value and our value are different because through internet, through people we're learning, we know each other, what's happening in the world, how we can help, right? Company like us, when we go public, people have high expectation on you. Shareholder have expectation on you to make money. But their society has expectation on you to solve the social problems. I think we, as the company, as the internet company, if you purely think about making money, which is nothing wrong. But if the guy, this I is US dollar, this guy's a Hong Kong dollars, and the man's talking about all IMB, this guy, nobody want to do business with you. Think about how you can help the others. And people will like to get closer to you and working together. So everything are the same. Whatever you transparent, not transparent, that will make the difference. You have to be transparent. You have to tell the fact, the truth, and make things happening.
Ngozi.
Maybe I should use this opportunity for those who are 100% made in Nigeria, since you're 100% made in China. I'm just fascinated. You talked a lot about the young. And of course, if you look at Africa will be, by 2050, probably the youngest continent and so on. But we have a unique opportunity. We have, let's just take my country, for example. We used to have 450,000 telephone lines in 2000, not so long ago. Today we have 125 million lines. And it's opened tremendous opportunity to do so many things through the mobile telephony and internet. So what advice do you have? Since you talked about young people, our young people are on social media, on the internet. They buy, they're more used to internet commerce than anything else. What advice do you have for them in order to create value and to drive forward our countries in a sustainable manner? What would you say?
Well, I think the free information and let them enjoy, because when I talk to young people or when I see a lot, my kids always spend time on the internet, always spend the time on the mobile phones and communicate. I think the parents complain, and I don't complain. I say, today internet probably is the best universities that could educate your kids. I have a relative. She's so good. She was so bad on education. She failed even for the high school, and she keep on pushing her son. Say, you have to work hard. You have to study this way and that way. I talked to her. Hey, you did not finish high school. If you teach your son in your way, I don't think your son will be that. Why not using internet? Why give him more opportunities? Maybe mobile, maybe So many years, I had a, it's a crazy vision. 5-6 years ago, I talked to one senior manager for Walmart. I said, using internet, using e-commerce, in 10 years, we were bigger than Walmart. This guy is a young man, very good. Have this vision. So now, this day is coming sooner. Because it's impossible. It is impossible. Today in China, you try to build supermarkets in every village, every town. The best way we have to use it is use internet. Internet is not only shorten the distance, it's making the world smaller and making people's mind getting closer each quickly and nicer. So I'm so excited by the Nigerian. So many young people use the mobile. When I heard about it, Indian IT is pretty good, but Indian internet, PC is bad, but India is so good on mobile. And young people so focused on the mobile phone, that is the opportunity. The world is going to be changed by the mobile phone internet. The world is going to change by, I say, from IT to DT. IT technology to data technology, which I truly believe. IT technology is for me, for myself, I can manage my company better. DT technology, which I call data technology, is to make other people better. So the future is making other people better. Then you will be successful. Only when others are successful, you can be successful. So mobile technology, a country like you guys, helping young people succeed, helping young people to reach the information, helping young people to try the new things. These are the hope of our generation and of this century. I'm so excited. I will go to Nigeria soon.
Okay, good. We'll shake on
Yeah.
And we were all here when Jack committed to go to Nigeria.
Yeah.
Darren, I know you wanted to jump in.
I don't mean to be a contrarian because I too am very excited about the internet and technology, but like the Roman god Janus, there's another side that I think we need to be mindful of. The fact is that the dark side of the internet is also problematic. The fact that data and information is gathered and owned and stored about millions, hundreds of millions of people, the fact that our notions, our 20th century notions of privacy are being upended, we need to be talking about that. We need to understand the ramifications of that. And so when we talk about the internet, I want to enlarge the space, the opportunity space of the internet for us to have universal access. Tim Berners-Lee's vision, the original vision of the World Wide Web, where universality and democracy could be enriched and enlivened and oxygenated by this new technology. And what I fear is that we're so enamored of and excited by the opportunity of the bright side that we're not spending enough time as a society on the dark side.
Mary?
I was going to say, I completely agree. And I think it will, if we don't, and we have to have that dialogue and decide how we want to collectively approach it, because it's a global challenge, because there is so much power in using the data and the information to drive efficiency, to drive more services, to just really, I think, improve people's lives. But if we don't solve what you say, the dark side, and the data is used for evil, not good, I think it will stem the progress more quickly than we think. So I couldn't agree more that has got to be something we look at on a global basis.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's, privacy and security, cybersecurity is the key. But on the other hand, I think everything is a bad side. The dark side, the yin and the yang, always this is good, this is bad. I remember 1994 or 1995, I went back, I was in China for a conference among a group of experts of internet. I was puzzled in 1995, we have experts of internet. In China, they're discussing about what are we going to do with the internet? And everybody said, well, internet when come, we're going to have this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem. So we should have controlling that. And I don't agree with that. I say, well, let these things grow up first. Now human beings are smart enough to controlling that. So now, that many years passed, 18 years passed. Those problems people worry about never come up. Those problems people never worry about come up. So the thing that privacy issues, security issues, these things will be solved. I think the first day when bank comes, people worry about, oh my God, I would have rather put my banks under my pillow, not in your house. But bank definitely can keep that things better than you do. So have the trust on the young people, have the trust on the future, have the trust those people dedicated, and the human being are smart enough to solve this problem. This is what I believe. And also, only you do better to make the bright side better, the dark side was smaller. If you focus on the smaller side, the dark side, things go nowhere. That's what I think. I don't know, maybe not right.
In Ngozi, Nigeria has embraced over the last couple of years an open government platform and making your government data much more transparent. And coupling that with what you were talking about with the MasterCard-enabled kind of identity cards, how do you think about this conversation? And how do you think about kind of what are the opportunities and challenges for Nigeria as you have so much data that you will kind of merge into big data? Kind of what do you want to use it for? What do you not want to use it for? How do you think about kind of big data enabling more sustainable development in Nigeria while still avoiding the dark side?
Well, thank you. Maybe I can even talk of beyond Nigeria, Africa as a whole with all its countries. I share the fact that we should not be complacent, that the internet is all for the good, and we should be mindful of the negative sides, if you want to put it that way, and be ready to be able to mitigate whatever those consequences are. But on balance, when you look at these issues of openness, transparency, I tend to agree with Jack that there are tremendous opportunities to be had if you're able and willing to be more transparent and open. We are just beginning, on this journey of being open. I can't say we're there yet, so let's not go. We're just beginning to release data. People are still very reluctant. Policymakers and others and politicians are still a little bit, they have trepidation about sharing this information and what it could lead to. But I believe that there are tremendous opportunities to be had. Just use one or two examples. We've always, I think our budget, for instance, is one of the most detailed and transparent. I think it's only in my country that you can tell how much the presidency spends for meals. If you go and look at our budget, it shows you, and it's loaded on our Ministry of Finance and Budget website, how much. We release all that information. And what I found is that young people began to develop apps to help people better understand the budget, better hold us to account, better see how they could use that information to tell people about where we were wanting in governance, where we were doing better, and so on and so forth. Now, that creates a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities, if you let data out in the open. And I think that we just created a communications technology ministry, and the minister is busy trying to push out this data. But the battle is not won. We need to convince people much more about the benefits of letting go. Letting go is very difficult because it has risks.
Letting go and enabling more people to participate.
Right.
In our last couple of minutes, I want to finish where kind of Ngozi and I started our first CGI conversation a couple years ago when we were on a panel together, The Case for Optimism. Darren, you said that you are radically optimistic. Does that mean that you believe the various sustainability metrics and mechanisms that you talked about, say in the next 10 years, will become more integrated into how businesses think about their mission, how the market evaluates those businesses? What do you think?
Yes, I am very optimistic that we are going to make huge progress. But I think I'm optimistic because I believe we're going to have to work differently, and I think we can rise to the challenge of working differently. I can speak about my own institution, a large foundation, which has been collaborative in many ways, but I don't think we have taken a philosophy of collaborating first. Because I think the incentives often distort the best ideas and don't create a best practice. And what I mean by that is we're often motivated and animated by the need for credit, the need to have the foundation's name first. So the kind of narcissistic tendencies that all of us, all of our institutions are somewhat guilty of, we're going to have to change that. I think we are going to have to, and so for Ford, what that means is I want our brand to be that we're a great partner, that we have ambition and humility, that we know how to collaborate, and that we're comfortable with giving up some control, because ultimately, we can do a project on our own. We can make a series of grants, but it is impossible today to have long-term, sustained success without collaborating.
The ethos of CGI. Mary, are you optimistic that what you've done at GM will be echoed by other car companies and other companies in other industries?
I I definitely am. And I think as you look at the future of the auto industry, and I believe it's going to change more in the next 5 to 10 years than it has in the last 30 to 40, to benefit society. When you look at the connectivity and vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-infrastructure, which makes the vehicles fundamentally safer, reduces congestion, which I think we can all appreciate being here this week. And then, you know, also from an environmental perspective. So there is tremendous change happening in the auto industry, but it will only work if we kind of tap onto what he said, it's collaborative. We've got to do it together to get the maximum benefit.
Ngozi, are you optimistic about Nigeria and Africa's future?
Oh, very. I mean, Africa as a continent has really shown that it can be different in this last decade from the way it has performed. So I'm very optimistic. I'm also very optimistic because of the young people. I really believe in them. Maybe it's not quite right enough, those of us who are old. Or maybe I should just speak for myself. But if you look at the set of young people and what they're doing and the way they're reaching out to the world, I feel that there's tremendous opportunity to be mined. We are a continent of the young. By 2050, 2030 on, we'll be the youngest continent, and we are going to rule the world.
Well,
That's good.
you know, already 70% of the continent's under 30, so you're well on your way. Jack, you're clearly optimistic about not just the future of Alibaba, but the future of China.
Yeah, of course. If I'm not optimistic, I would never survive for 15 years doing internet in China. My best American idol was Forrest Gump. And the sentence I like the most is, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. And, but we have to be realistic. If there's no realistic, if you do not really stand on the ground, you will die. So when I have a tough time, I always tell myself, today is tough. Tomorrow is much tougher. But the day of tomorrow is very beautiful. But most people die tomorrow evening. If you don't work hard, you never see the sunshine of the day of tomorrow. So optimistic, but realistic. Then things can make happen. Otherwise, you're just in the dream. It's a fancy dream.
Well, yesterday, Jim Kim said something that really struck me and stayed with me, that optimism is a moral choice. Optimism is clearly also a business choice. So I think we all can take comfort that our values are converging, which I think is a really healthy evolution for governments, for business, and for philanthropies and foundations. Please give our tremendous panelists a round of applause.